It's a sound no one wants to hear, a siren wailing out the message that nuclear war has begun. Armageddon has arrived. It's a sound we never want to hear, neither in our own lifetime nor in the lifetime of our children's children. Yet at 250 centres in Britain, people are ready.
Attack warning red.
At 18,000 warning units in hamlets and villages, people like this publican near Tadcaster are trained to warn of a Russian missile attack. Since 1945, the end of the Second World War, the word peace has been on millions of lips around the world. But fear has been the predominant emotion in world politics. The West fears and distrusts the Russians. The Russians fear and distrust the West. On the North Yorkshire moors and close to the whole of Hawkham, a natural amphitheatre 12 miles from Whitby, is the ballistic missile early warning station of RAF Fylingdales. Its prime function is basic: to alert the West of a possible Russian attack by ballistic missiles, to be the unsleeping eye that watches and misses nothing. The commanding officer at Fylingdales is Group Captain Roger Sweatman. After a distinguished flying career for the RAF and on attachment to the United States Air Force, he now heads a hand-picked team of RAF and Ministry of Defence personnel. Altogether, over 700 people work here. Fylingdales was officially opened in 1963. It cost £43 million. 35 million came from the Americans, 8 million from Britain. The complex stretches across 2,000 acres of moorland. Security is tight. For the commanding officer, a daily ritual with his pennant.
Morning.
Fine but cooler this morning?
Yes, certainly is.
There we go, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. There we go, sir.
The small dome in the foreground is a listening ear, an interference analyzer dealing with unwelcome radio and television signals. But it's the three radomes, the three giant golf balls, each towering 160 feet high, that mean Fylingdales to most people. Each geodesic dome houses a radar scanner, and each radar can see 3,000 miles out into space. North Lock is the real entrance to the normally unseen centre of Fylingdales. It's a vast tunnel, but paradoxically not a tunnel that's underground. This is above ground. Security checks are stringent. Vehicles are checked for bombs before entering. No vehicle enters unless its electrics have been adapted to prevent interference to the radar. The tunnel is 800 metres long.
Morning, sir. Okay, here's my pin. Thank you.
The tunnel network is specially reinforced so that there is no risk from microwave radiation. Hundreds of miles above the tunnel, 1,500 payloads circle in space, some friendly, some definitely hostile. Fylingdales knows them all. The objects circling in space are all catalogued. Each one has a name and number, an identifying code. Some are as small as an orange. Others, like the Russian Salyut 6, are huge, weighing over 10 tons. Entrance to a radome is through heavily insulated doors. No one enters without a meter to check radiation levels. Day and night, the Fylingdales scanners, prompted by computer memories, identify every single object. Fylingdales is linked to United States Space Command headquarters in Colorado Springs and to early warning bases at Clear in Alaska and Thule in Greenland, 600 miles within the Arctic Circle. Within seconds, this 100-ton scanner would see a missile launched, work out the exact point where it would land in Britain or Europe, and tell observers who had fired it. We asked the commanding officer to explain the strategic role of Fylingdales.
Well, essentially, we're here to detect objects in space which are ballistic. So we can see satellites, we can see debris floating around in space, and we can see ballistic missiles. What we can't see are things like aeroplanes, birds, cruise missiles, and so on. They are in powered flight, so the radar doesn't see them. So really what you're saying is, what do we do with this information? And I think that that's probably best expressed in terms of our mission. And we have two missions, a primary and a secondary mission. The primary mission, our primary mission, is to deter the Soviets from launching a surprise attack by demonstrating that we have a capability to detect that attack should it be launched. So it denies them the option of, or the capability of being able to destroy our retaliatory capability, if you like. The second mission is fairly closely related to the first, and that is to maintain a catalogue of everything that's out there in space right now. In fact, we detect the passage of about 38,000 objects each day. Now, some of those are the same object that's gone around a couple of times or more, because a lot of these things go around every 90 minutes, as you know. And also, we produce accurate orbital data by tracking about 300 satellites each day.
Since the first Russian Sputnik was launched in 1957, there have been 2,670 launches. Some 15,000 space objects have actually been catalogued, but these include, over the years, nuts and bolts and floating debris. Most of it has come down. Some objects stay up for as little as a fortnight, others may well circle for 1,000,000 years. Today, 1,500 working satellites orbit the Earth. Some are communication satellites, others are there to spy on shipping and troop movements, on military and other secret installations, to assess the strengths and weaknesses of enemies. But when a spent satellite re-enters Earth's atmosphere and burns up, East and West pass the information to each other in case it's mistaken for a ballistic missile. From the air, RAF Fylingdales sprawls over 2,000 acres. It's a self-contained township. It has its own water and sewage systems. It generates its own electricity. Everyone posted here attends briefings for familiarisation.
This then, gentlemen, is the station crest of RAF Fylingdales. The motto, Vigilamus, roughly translated, we watch. In the centre we then have the White Rose of York, because the station is of course within Yorkshire, and this is surmounted by a fire basket. The fire basket depicting the old warning beacons that used to be placed on hills around the countryside to give warning of attack by things in the past such as the Spanish Armada. Fylingdales was conceived in the late 1950s as part of the ballistic missile early warning system. The system is designed so that the three sites give overlapping radar coverage, so that any missile that would impact upon the United States or the United Kingdom would be detected by one or more of the radar sites. This then is an aerial view of RAF Fylingdales, and as you can see, the station divides roughly into two areas. A domestic area where we have the officers' mess, the airmen's and NCO's mess, support functions such as the fire section, sick quarters and various canteens. And then in the background we have the three radomes of the radar site itself.
To keep the three radars working requires a vast amount of electrical power. A massive amount of heat is generated. In the underground plant room, the heat has to be dissipated. The all-important computers must be kept at a constant temperature of 68 degrees Fahrenheit. All equipment is duplicated and in some cases triplicated to avoid breakdown and the risk of error. Inside the computers is an exact knowledge of everything circling in space, friendly and unfriendly. If a scanner sees something in space it doesn't recognise, it zeroes in for a closer look. A hostile missile can be spotted, its trajectory computed, and its point of impact determined inside 3 minutes. And this cesium clock, accurate to 1 second in 5,000 years, would tick away the remaining seconds to impact. The electrical power for Fylingdales comes from banks of American diesel generators. They can produce enough power to run the nearby town of Whitby. There are 8 generators and 2 can provide power for the base. If one fails, another switches on to maintain full power. The operations room, the nerve centre of Fylingdales, is manned 24 hours around the clock. Here, the information processed by banks of computers is constantly analysed and updated. Fylingdales patrols one vast area of sky. It probes and plots the orbital flight path of all that it sees. As the scanners sweep and track, the information is double-checked by the officers and sergeants, who are specially trained to interpret the information. But is this all that they do?
Many people believe that if we see a raid building up, for example, that there is a red button here, or that I pick up the telephone and that automatically that we launch nuclear weapons back at the Soviet Union as a result of that. Once again, I'd like to dispel that particular point of view. It's absolute rubbish. The decision taken when we pass that information back to various government agencies and so on is strictly for the Prime Minister. In the case of this country, or the President in the case of the United States of America. The decision to escalate and make some sort of riposte in nuclear terms is strictly the responsibility of the politicians, not the military. We merely provide them with information to help them make the right sort of decisions.
But what of the critics of Fylingdales, those who see it as an obvious prime target for a Russian nuclear attack? Is it a sitting duck?
Nobody can second guess what is in the minds of the Soviet High Command. But as far as I'm concerned, from a military viewpoint, that's absolute nonsense. It's rather like destroying somebody's camera after they've removed the film and processed it. Because our purpose here is to see these missiles coming. When we've seen them coming and we've sent the alarm rearwards, our job is complete.
Fylingdales has always had its critics, from the Japanese Buddhist monks who protested outside in 1979 to the campaigners for nuclear disarmament. Their peace camp in summer is opposite the front entrance. Why do CND supporters find Fylingdales objectionable?
Just don't like the idea of the retaliation aspect of it, that this gives them to fire weapons back and inflict the same sort of damage on another lot of people. I mean, just because they're going to bomb us doesn't mean to say we've got to blast the rest of the world out of existence as well.
I don't think there's anything in Fylingdales that hasn't got cruise missiles. It's part of this whole system that we must be aware of. I can't sort of feel strongly about Fylingdales particular. It's only because it's part of the nuclear network that I feel strongly about Fylingdales. And I happen to live in Scarborough, which is near to Fylingdales.
I don't think I'd like a warning at all.
4 minutes?
What does 4 minutes give you? What can you do in 4 minutes?
They represent death because that's what they are there for. They're there to retaliate, to cause death on other people.
Paradoxically, we're both here for the same purpose, really, and that is to make sure that there is not a nuclear war in the future. They obviously believe that disarmament is a way to do that. I think most of us believe that that's been tried and found wanting. We believe that a strong man armed keepeth his goods in peace, as they say, and that deterrence is the best way to go as far as that's concerned.
In the government's nuclear war scenarios, Fylingdales is generally assumed to be a prime target in the first wave of a Soviet attack. Once Fylingdales is out of action, subsequent missiles could hit Britain undetected. Nor is Fylingdales certain to spot all types of attack. It cannot spot cruise missiles, nor can it spot submarine-launched non-ballistic missiles. But such projections have no part in the philosophy of farmer Lorne Wilkinson. He has farmed the heights above Fylingdales for over 20 years, and he regards it with patriotic pride.
That place there, they're our eyes. The eyes that Bruce Kent and his Delilahs would like to see put out, so that those enemies of ours that would like to see us overcome will be assisted by putting out those eyes.
But what of a threat of a Russian bomb? Isn't Fylingdales a likely target?
Where isn't there a target in the world? There's a target anywhere. They may try to home in onto Fylingdales or wherever there are defence complexes, but we're all in a target. The whole country's in a target. America's in a target. Everybody's in a target zone.
To the moorland peace protesters, the presence of Fylingdales adds to the risk of war and nuclear retaliation. There are 132 American bases or units in the United Kingdom, and that, argue the peace people, is not a good insurance policy at all.
If you've walked around that base, as I have done on many times, and each time, especially as it's getting dark and you're going round the back side of Fylingdales, and you see how much it is lit up, it becomes an out-of-space sort of situation, and it's frightening. That these wild and open moors, there's a cross up on the moors that, how old is it? How many thousands, hundreds of years old? And Fylingdales being where it is, could just destroy that. Have we got that right in this century to do that? To destroy such things? Is the earth really ours to do as we want with? Surely it's held in trust. We hold it in trust for future generations.
But surely Fylingdales is only here to pass on information.
It's going straight to America. Of course it's giving information, but for what? Retaliation.
In the early days of Fylingdales, there were many American personnel. £35 million of American money went into the building of it. But today there is only one American, Major Jim Webber from Kansas, a liaison officer. We asked him if he had a more powerful role than his title suggests.
The best thing I could say is that I'm the only U.S. military personnel here, which I think has been confused a lot. There used to be a time where there were quite a few more U.S. here, and it was jointly run. At this particular time, it's boiled down to one major, and that being myself. It has been for a very, very long time now, a completely RAF-run, operated, and maintained unit. The only thing that the U.S. has, by international agreement, asked this unit to provide is warning of a potential attack on the North American continent, and secondly, space track information. That's it. How the RAF goes about providing that is their business, and the U.S. stays out of it.
The information Fylingdales pulls from the skies complements information provided by the early warning sites in Alaska and Greenland. This information is processed by the Space Computer Center in the Cheyenne Mountains in Colorado, a global network of radar and optical tracking stations with additional sensors identify and predict the position in space of all satellites in Earth orbit. The radomes weigh 87 tons each. Their shape is geodesic, a shape made famous by the American architect Buckminster Fuller. The domes protect the concealed scanners from snow and gales. But why, with 2,000 acres of space, does Fylingdales use only 1%? To critics, Fylingdales points to radiation hazard. Although most radiation goes upwards, there is always some risk. So, upwind and downwind of the installation, there's a fenced-off prairie of forbidden territory. We asked Squadron Leader David Todd about other restrictions.
Aeroplanes, because there is a small radiation hazard here, and are not allowed to fly within 1.5 miles of Fylingdales.
The claimed accuracy is formidable. We asked him just how accurate.
It's often said that Fylingdales can see something the size of a tea tray over Moscow, which isn't a bad estimation, really.
But what if the worst happens? What if Russia attacked? The sweeping radar would detect the deadly missiles and instantly alert the operations room.
System report now, system report now. System report call.
This is Fylingdales system report valid in a UK alarm and European alarm. Exercise, centres acknowledged by roll call.
System valid, MIP system is valid. No real threats in the system, no significance on all rolls. Both alarm levels 1. Roger.
European TA 0074, UK 0117.
Eleven missiles are on their way, 7.8 minutes to impact. Throughout Europe and America, secret missile bases come onto full alert. They wait for the order to retaliate. America has been alerted, our Prime Minister has been alerted. Strike units scramble.
British alarm level 1, British alarm level 1, TA value 0117. European TA value 0081.
System report now, system report now.
British alarm level 1, European alarm level 1.
13 missiles tracked, 6 minutes to impact.
TA 0097.
Nuclear submarines act on their coded signals. But what of the civilian population? Special telecom circuits have sent warnings to 250 British control points. York Police Station is one of them.
Attack warning red. Attack warning red.
At Tadcaster, the siren blares out. This, for what it's worth, is the cue for nuclear civil defence. Fylingdales claim never to have missed an object in space. They see their mission as a key link in the theory of deterrence. So far, it has worked.